we have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
In the aftermath of World War I, a powerful group of internationalists offered humanity a solution to the ravages of war: collective security through world government. The most prominent advocate of this plan was United States President Woodrow Wilson. The League of Nations, he proposed, would enforce peace by threatening to use collective force against individual aggressors. But Americans were leery of entanglements with the constantly warring European powers. They wanted no part of a world superstate. The United States Senate refused to ratify the League of Nations covenant, and without the U.S. membership, the League was doomed. In response, the League's internationalist sponsors decided to found the Council on Foreign Relations. Based in New York City, this private group's purpose would be to lay the groundwork in America for world government. While gaining control within the U.S. State Department during World War II, CFR members covertly worked towards establishing a successor to the League of Nations. The plans for the future United Nations were drafted by the Informal Agenda Group, a secret committee set up by Secretary of State Cordell Hull. The group was composed entirely of CFR members. At the UN's founding conference in San Francisco, 43 of the U.S. delegates, virtually the entire contingent, were CFR members. Acting Secretary General for the conference was CFR member Alger Hiss. Later, the American public would learn that Hiss was a Soviet agent. Few Americans, however, would learn that the United Nations was the creation of the CFR. And from World War II to the present, the CFR's influence in American government and society has grown dramatically. In 1966, the CFR's influence was confirmed in Tragedy and Hope, a history of the world in our time. Its author, celebrated historian Professor Carroll Quigley, sympathized with the CFR's agenda. Concerning the secret network that manages the CFR, Quigley wrote,
"I know the operations of this network because I've studied it for 20 years and was permitted for 2 years to examine its papers and secret records."
Quigley also described their ultimate goal:
to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole.
Admiral Chester Ward, former Judge Advocate General of the U.S. Navy, was for many years a CFR member. Subsequently, he became one of its chief critics. According to Ward, the CFR's goal is the submergence of U.S. sovereignty and national independence into an all-powerful, one-world government. Richard Harwood of the Washington Post also openly conceded that CFR members are the nearest thing Americans have to a ruling establishment. Harwood's 1993 column pointed to the White House.
The President is a member, so is his Secretary of State, the Deputy Secretary of State, all 5 of the Undersecretaries.
Harwood went on through a litany of CFR members in the Clinton administration. In fact, the CFR has dominated every presidential administration since World War II. The list of CFR members serving in the Bush administration is extensive. However, those striving for world government generally keep their objective hidden from the public eye. The late Senator Alan Cranston explains why to his fellow globalists in the April 1976 issue of Transition magazine.
The more talk about world government, the less chance of achieving it, because it frightens people who would accept the concept of world law.
Globalists often cloak their ultimate goal behind less threatening labels, terms as world order, collective security, interdependence, global community, economic integration, or convergence. However, all point down the same road.
we have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.